It's a teaspoon, yeah? Spoon for tea. And today I'm gonna have... So I switched teas now a little. This is my last black tea that I have. So now I switch to green tea and have some chamomile, right? And I'm just going to put that in there. This is oolong tea, which history says helped the Chinese be very good at war because it kept them awake, right? I'm fighting an emotional war, and therefore I have an interest to stay awake as well, so that I can pay attention to how I feel and then transform that into something else. Alright? Here you already find, or would find, if you would be me, that there is ginger inside. I put ginger inside, like such a piece, sliced it, put it in. Now this is black tea, not just one. If I would have leafy black tea, I would put in probably 2 teaspoons in 1 liter. If I really want to have a stronger one, I would take 3. Now this is a mixture containing sweetwood, sweetwood, cinnamon, coriander. But to me, the important part is the sweetwood, because I like it, and it also detoxifies the body. So first do that one. So I just pour that in there, and then I'm gonna let it stand for a couple of hours, because I like this to really blend nicely, and I want that it extracts all of the stuff that's in there. Okay. So this is now roughly 1 liter. So I make this so that I drink enough, because if I don't make tea, I don't really like drinking water as much. Because tea also does other things, and that's why I like making tea with spices. Yeah, and now that can just sit. Right? I can just pour this in. This is one of my hats, but I can also use it so that this thing stays hot longer. And so, right? It can extract. Now I can even put that hat on top, so it stays hot even longer. Alright? Now this is just to show off. Okay. Now, probably nobody's watching this, but that's okay, because, you know, I want to say something. And what I want to say is, right, this is basically about using your emotions to do something else with it than sitting around being bored on a couch, right? This is a very simple method to bring out emotions that you are feeling. And the goal is to simply learn to let go and then to look at whatever wants to come out. Now, what is important to understand is that this is not a process that you can really control. So for me, let's say I wake up. I don't know what kind of life you're living. Maybe you're still going to school, right? Maybe you're working, maybe you have a family, maybe you're alone, maybe you're in a relationship, maybe you're really old, maybe you're retired already and your wife died or your husband died, right? I don't know, maybe your girlfriend committed suicide. There's all kinds of things that might work inside of you at the moment, emotionally, all right? There's all kinds of things. To somebody who just lost someone, that's a very big deal. To me, there are other things that are a very big deal. Right? To me, what really bothers me is that I can't stop watching porn. That's really something that bothers me. But only to a certain degree. Because if there's no women, and I crave for women, then I rather give in and give myself that, than instead of saying, no, I shouldn't watch porn because, I shouldn't even have sexual desire. Right? Because once I was standing in the shower and the voice came and said, let go of sexual desire. Well, I still haven't managed. Well, maybe, I'll manage in 50 years, right? I don't know that. And so the thing is, for me, it's more important to be creative than to be perfect. Because being perfect or trying to make perfect things ruins creativity. You just have to look at these really modern houses. They're just like really boring, really neat, everything is gray. They don't even have grass anymore because they drove perfection through the wall. And then they said, well, having a lot of grass isn't very useful because you'd have to tend to it. But I want to sit inside and watch TV because now the house is so perfect, I actually never want to leave it. So you literally see houses that only have gravel lying around. What does that say about the people? They hate life. And so they hide themselves inside. Well, I also do that, but I don't do that to watch TV. I do that to be creative so that I can look at my emotions. And I really like that. And sometimes I feel like there's something working in me. You also have to understand I have by now a lot of experience with this process. I know exactly what to do to get my emotions onto a page, to give them form, right? It doesn't really matter whether you crochet your way out of your depression. It doesn't really matter whether you paint yourself out of your depression. And it also doesn't really matter whether you pottery yourself, right? People do pottery. It's a form of creativity. You can also cook yourself out of your depression. Some people, they just start baking a lot. The problem I have with baking is that somebody has to eat all of that. And either it's going to be you or other people, or it's going to be the trash bin. Well, you could, of course, go somewhere and just cook a lot. You could do that, right? You could cook a lot. Wow. Only where would you do that, right? So the thing is, wow. Sometimes I'm being hammered with options I didn't even know existed. You know, it says, hold on to that thought. So this is something I drew before. So also, you know, my emotions were different. That's all I can say. Right? Things changed. So it's not that heavy anymore. I just work with pencil now, before I worked with other things. All right. Now we have a blank page, and you're sitting there and you think, and now? What am I supposed to do now? You know, I like this format. I think it's, let's check. It's A3. I like this format. You know, maybe you don't like working with paper, but let's just assume that you using paper to bring out your emotions is going to help humanity to work out the trauma that the whole of humanity seems to have, and that they are letting out on Mother Nature, right? Let's just assume that nature right now is helping you to transform your trauma into something else. And now, before we start, there's one question that you might ask yourself. The question is, do you like computers? Or do you like more stuff like water paint, right? You know, I like computers because I want to reach people also that use mobile phones and computers. So the people I want to reach are the people that look at the stuff that I make through a screen. Because I want to reach as many people as I can with my art. To show them what you can do with your emotions. You know, that's my mission, partly. To just show them you don't have to be depressed. You don't have to sit around all day and watch movies. There's actually things you can do. And this is one of them. Now, the question is, do you want to share what you do, or do you just want to do it for yourself? No, I just share everything, basically. Because I like sharing and I'm good at expressing myself, and I think people should, you know, have the ability to see what I'm making, if they want to. You know, if it gives them pleasure, it gives me pleasure to make it, so why not also other people? But this is also a very intimate process, right? It's very intimate. You're basically turning everything you have inside of you out of yourself onto a page so that you can look at it and maybe understand what you have been feeling all this time. So when I started to do this, I had no idea what I was doing. I simply sat down, and now I'm going to show you how I started doing it. So usually the way I worked, I drank coffee to push myself out of my depression so that I was in a state somewhat of love. And from that place, I simply started making shapes, right? And now it's a bit harder, but I put the pencil wherever it wants to go, right? And then I simply make a shape. And the only reason I continue doing that is because, right, there's always something to work with. So I have no idea what this is going to be. You know, when I'm drawing, I always hope it's going to be something that looks like something. Sometimes I draw things, they just look like nothing. And then I'm a little bit disappointed, but that's just what wanted to come out. And then I have to accept that. And sometimes maybe I sit down and I have the intention I want to draw a spider, and then I draw a spider. Or I try to draw a spider. So maybe I look at images of spiders and I try to draw that. But only if I feel like drawing a spider. I'm not gonna think, oh, what could I draw next? Oh, I could draw a spider. That's usually not how it works. The way it works with me is I sit down, I have a feeling what I want to draw, and then I draw that. But I don't think all day about what I could draw now. I simply wait till I feel like drawing, and then I draw something. But also, drawing is always an option. Always! Right? Drawing is always an option. But I also realize that if I keep drawing day in and day out, to me it just gets boring. And at one point there's just nothing that I want to draw anymore. And I sometimes miss drawing these really scary, angry things, but I also realize I can still do that. But right, the whole point is to transform the stuff inside of you that makes you really angry. And that means once you've turned a lot of your anger or frustration or fear into art, well, you also have to let go of that so that your art can change into something more cheerful. And you have to get used to that, right? I have to get used to this. This is totally different than what I was doing in the beginning. The beginning was very angry stuff, very intense. And sure, I can get to that place again if I fill myself with the things that would get me there. So if I would continue to watch horror movies all the time, if I would well, I'm not completely shutting these things out of myself, because I also acknowledge it's still part of this world. And the people I want to reach, you know, these people, they do watch porn. And they do watch horror movies. You know, I like Tim Burton. Somehow, right? I like him. I like him better than Quentin Tarantino, because I just think there's too much blood. But what does Quentin Tarantino do? Well, he takes all his hatred and anger and turns that into movies, which is a form of expression. But it seems like he's holding on to that, right? That's how it looks like to me, right? He's holding on to his trauma. And plus, he's sucking other people into it even. I mean, the way it should be, because now he's created a brand for himself. And he probably tries to make really bloody movies because, you know, that's what his fans want to see. But I don't want to make really bloody things. I want to make things that inspire and that make you think like, wow. Yeah, sometimes they can still be really intense because I have that part and, you know, that part is always there. But depending on who I want to reach, you know, I also, because I want to be a father, right? You know, I want to be a father. Somehow, I want to be a father. Or at least somebody who gets along with children, right? And who can talk to children, all that kind of stuff. And now my feeling says that's done. Because I feel like there's nothing to do anymore. Now I could add detail, but it says just leave it. You know, so I communicate with myself, but I also have already, I mean, I've done hundreds of these. Right? So, you know, you can say, let's do the next. And now I want to start with an eye, because just drawing weird shapes to me is just really boring. So I draw an eye. And now I'm trying to visualize, how do I want it to look like? You know, usually it starts with I just see an eye, or I see something that looks a bit like a cat, right? Sometimes I think I want to draw a cat, and then I draw what I think feels like a cat, and then it looks completely different from how I would have imagined drawing a cat. But that's how the cat came out. And then I like it. And then suddenly I look at the cat and I see myself in the cat. And that's like, what? Right? How they used to say it, far out, right? Yes. Don't like this phone. Because the phone is a distraction. You know, if you're doing this, just put it on flight mode or do not disturb or something. Okay, so the eye. How does the eye want to look? You know, sometimes I get bored doing round eyes or like eyes like this. But I also realize that sometimes you can draw the same thing twice and it still looks different in the end because you can, you know, you have absolute creative freedom. You know, you can use different colors. When you're on the computer, you can add all kinds of patterns, right? You can use different techniques. I mean, you don't have to use the computer. You can use watercolors, you can use oil colors, you can just use like pencils or crayons. You know, you can use whatever you want to use. Right? That's entirely up to you. There's no rules in expressing yourself. You know, today I express myself the way I dress. You know, I wanted to wear this hat like this. Well, partly because if I sit like this, you can't see my face, right? So that was also a conscious choice where I said, oh, I want to do it like this today. So I also recently started doing more images just on my laptop from scratch. So I do the same thing that I do here with a pencil, and then I do it on the laptop. And also really nice things come out, but they're very different than what I would normally do like this. Very different. Because how I do it also now is I draw it and then I take a picture, and that means the texture of this becomes a part of the image that I then make on the computer. But ultimately it doesn't really matter. Okay, I wanted to draw an eye. Right? I don't have to be, because I do a lot of stuff on the computer. I don't have to be overly, right? I don't have to be really rigid. You know, I don't have to draw perfect, because for me it's just I want to have the contours. This is all you need in the beginning. You know, you don't think about the details of the image. That comes later. First you give it a shape, right? That's how you are. You have a certain shape, right? And now I'm trying to think, what do I see? Because now sometimes I'm getting a bit bored of drawing sharp teeth, but I actually also like it. Because it just draws attention also, you know? I like attention. You know, who am I kidding? I like attention. Right? And now how is this supposed to work? So now I'm thinking about it. You know, it's much more fun if you just draw it. But that's the problem if you have experience, then you start to control again more. You know, the best things I drew when I wasn't thinking about it at all. So this is already pissing me off a little because I just can't let go. I'm trying to control it because I'm thinking about, you know, what could I draw now that people would really like? But it's not about what people like, it's about what wants to show itself. It's about what kind of emotion wants to come out. So I think, oh, if I draw these kind of teeth now, it's really boring. But who cares if it's boring or not, right? Who cares? Yeah, I want that people say it's awesome. No, it's awesome anyway. You know, I can draw a really cute turtle and that still looks awesome. Wait, is that now? Like this? You see, I'm still not controlling in that sense, right? Because it's still a mystery to me in a certain way what this is going to be. Because sometimes I draw this. It's also a way of feeling into this. You know, how does it want to look? And how does it want to look? Now I wanted to have these kind of eyes because I simply like this. Because I don't like all this cute stuff. I just want. Plus, you know, you also have to acknowledge that everybody has their own style. I have my own style. You know, I draw noses like this. And this is simply one of my facets, right? A part of me is like this. A part of me is a snarling monster. If you're pissing me off, you know, I'm gonna snarl at you. That's just how it is. You see, right? And now, right? You think like, okay, what's missing now? Does it need ears? Sometimes you can also just make it look really stupid. So somehow I had the feeling I wanted to have a head. For some reason I wanted to make it a bit ridiculous because that's the funny part. You know, some people they pretend like they're really angry, you know, that's basically me. Sometimes I look at people and I'm like, "Arr." But inside, you know, I'm this cute little thing that just wants to play. You know, I would never harm anyone. But some people, they're so afraid that they don't see that, you know, I'm more like a Mickey Mouse. But that's their problem, of course. You know, if they decide that they want to be afraid of you, it's their problem. No, I can look like this. Normally I don't explain myself what I'm drawing, right? Normally I'm just drawing it and then I look at it afterwards. You know, now I'm just doing it so that you understand that whatever you draw, it doesn't matter. You know, sometimes the drawings I made scared me a little. Even that doesn't matter. If it wants to scare you, let it scare you. Right? In the end, we all just want to live our lives. And the way I see it is quite simple. We live in a world that is ruled by assholes, yeah? By insecure male children that exploit Mother Nature. So sure, a part of me is this cute little thing, but how you also could see these ears is, you know, I'm very alert. I'm listening all the time to what I have to do next. or that I feel like doing next. So right now I feel like doing this. And so I'm actually not that cute little thing like Mickey Mouse. You know, I'm more like this. Because I'm very serious about the stuff that I came here to do. I'm very serious about that. And so in a way, you know, I'm like this. Why? Because I need to be like this. Because you have to understand that we're dealing with people that have no problem to kill millions of animals in slaughterhouses and make money with that. We are dealing with people that have no problem to exploit humanity for their own greed because they want to have money. So these people, they see no value in life. So if I would be just like a cute Mickey Mouse, you know, they would just screw me over. So I have to be a bit like this. No, I don't have to be super angry on the inside, but on the outside, you know, I look very stern. You know, I look like, don't fuck with me. Because I can tear you apart. You know, I can express myself verbally very well. You know, if you try to screw me with your words, you know, you will have to start dealing with whatever I will throw at you. So it's also important to be serious about who you are and what you're trying to accomplish with your art. Why are you making art? Right? So, because if you're not serious about it, then you won't get very far. Then you will just stop. Because people will make you feel really insecure. And so one thing I'm also doing is I'm working out. You know, I'm working out. Because you also have to maintain, like, deal with all the pressure. Emotions are heavy. And to channel them into this takes a lot of focus and determination. You know, most people, they stop. Or they just overuse psychedelics and then they die. I barely use any psychedelics. I drink tea. At the moment I work with coffee, but I can do it without. And when I'm hungry, I eat oats with peanut butter or a soup or something. Right? So I don't need psychedelics to do any of this. But I also cannot deny that they opened me up to this. Right? If I would have never done psychedelics, there's just certain things I could have never done. So, you know, I say thank you, nature. But if I keep taking psychedelics all the time, then I lose myself in them, and then I'm dependent, and then I'm just an addict. No, I'd rather be addicted to life in a way. So I'll do one more. So now you see the blank page. You can use this as a form of meditation. You visualize the page, you focus on the page, and then you try to see what you see in there. What do you see when you look at the blank page? Because this is basically a mirror of yourself. You are looking in the mirror right now. It's an emotional mirror. And this thing can be filled with something that you have inside of you. If it's not inside of you, you cannot bring it out. So sometimes you first have to do a bit of digging, right? So people, they say, oh, I want to draw, I want to draw. But if you don't do the emotional weightlifting first, if you have nothing to draw, well, then you focus on, I want to draw, and then you make certain choices. You feel like, wait, you know you want to draw, that's your intention. And what does your feeling tell you have to do first? And then your feeling tells you, okay, before you can draw, what you should do, I don't know, go eat this, go do this, go for a hike first, and then when you come back, you draw. This is how it works with me. My feeling tells me exactly what to do and how to do it, and then I follow that. And that means you have to, you know, in spirituality, we often talk about the ego. The ego is basically fear. The ego wants to control, wants to be in charge. If I draw an image like this, I'm not really in charge here. Because everything that happens just happens on its own. I'm not doing this. You know, okay, I'm the mediator between my emotions and the page. Okay, I reveal what's already there. So I cannot simply claim it for myself. Right? Because it's also, you know, everything that I did helped me to get this out. So in a way, nature helps me to do this. Because if I wouldn't have paper, I couldn't draw on it. If I wouldn't have here this kind of charcoal pencil, I couldn't draw with it. If I wouldn't have the tea or the food that nature provides me with, you know, even the metal from this thermos bottle comes from nature. So, you know, I appreciate all these things that help me to be creative. Because that's so much better than just sitting around watching movies all the time. And now the squatting position is also a very good way to channel energy. Because it opens up your root chakra. Because it, you know, you may have to get used to sitting like this a little. So just to get back, this is the first one. You know, sometimes I have to first do something like this. And then it takes shape more like this. Sometimes, you know, this is like the top layer of whatever I'm feeling. You know, it's like very confusing. There's no real shape to it. And then I get to the next layer, and suddenly I see how angry I am. You know, I'm very angry. I have a lot of anger in me. But also right now I want to work with that because I'm drinking coffee, right? Because that makes you like, ah! This is how I feel, right? Yesterday I was stretching out my jaw. Like this. And there was so much tension in my jaw. Today it's better. Today it's much better. Alright, so this is done. Nice. And now I look at this page. Now I have to let go of these things that I already did. You know, sometimes I do 7 after each other. Sometimes I just do 7 in a row and then I'm done. Yeah, and then I have 7 to work on and then I put color on them. You know, sometimes I do them in one go and sometimes I take my time and just do one at a time. So now let's see what this is. What is this? I think of a spider. But you see, and now I have something like so how this works is, or can work, is a bit like you try to let your mind go blank. So you can look at the page without really looking at it, which means you're kind of staring onto the page, but you don't really focus. And then you can kind of look into the page. So it's a way of you actually look into yourself more. And when I try to do that without blinking, it can bring out shapes that weren't there, you know, that I couldn't see. It's more like seeing with your third eye. But that takes a lot of practice, of course. And now I'm just going to try it like this, because I haven't done that. Okay. Right, sometimes in between I want to check. I can actually also look somewhere else, right? I can look at this point and just see where my hand wants to move. And if I keep doing that a couple of times, I will realize that I will start getting better at it. Sometimes I have a problem with these images. Because I don't like it if it's like too confusing, you know? But that's how emotions are. You know, I cannot control this. Because if I do, it's just gonna be always the same. But the way I draw, it's just always different. Because I let go of control, you know, I don't try to recreate things. So now I'm just feeling into, now I'm looking at it again, I think, okay, what's missing? And then I feel like, okay, this is missing. Right, and then I see your face. And then this is like a trunk. You know, this is now my experience, right? This is now experience because I've done this already quite a lot. So now I can look for what do I see in there, right? I even can take it and turn it around. You know, now I could even say, oh wow, this looks like an elephant or something. You know, I could even make so usually what I see in these things is more like a feeling, right? It's more like a feeling than that I actually can say, oh, that is this or something, right? It's a feeling. It's an emotion. You see, now suddenly I see there's a face here. But I didn't consciously draw that, I just thought an eye belongs there. And when I drew the eye, I saw, oh wow, this actually has the shape of a face. And now my feeling says that's it. What does that mean? I don't know. Right? I don't know what that means. You know, it just means, hey, wow. Okay, let's try one more time. So in the end, it's only you who can do this to bring out things out of yourself. But I do have to say, I do prefer also to draw things that have a little bit of life to them, right? I can't say what this is supposed to be really sad. And sometimes I make a line and then I realize, oh wait, there's still something else. But that's okay, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. You know, I could make this go away, but like I said, like, my art doesn't have to be super perfect. I just want to do art, you know, I don't want to think about it too much. And I really like tea. Because this is also, right, what I get from nature. Nature isn't just butterflies and rainbows. Nature is, you know, I'm gonna fuck you up if you toy with me. You know? But now I can even take that. Wow. But it's also, of course, I have a lot of experience, like I said, right? I know roughly. I have the feeling this wants to be something. But I don't know what. But yeah, so like I basically say, anybody can do this. All you have to do is sit down and put down a pencil. And the best thing is, if you don't really look at other people's art, if you just see what wants to show itself, and then whatever you want to draw just comes out. You know, if you're an active smoker of cannabis, you can combine that. Because smoking cannabis and then sitting on a couch is a complete waste of it. It's much better. You can even, you know, if you like drinking red wine, you can even drink red wine. But use it creatively. Don't just drink red wine because you don't know what else to do. Don't just smoke because you're lazy. You know, use these things to do something with your emotions, because otherwise, you know, you're just taking things for granted. And then you're stuck, right? You use these things to help yourself grow. If you want to. But you also don't have to use anything. I mean, that depends on you. Right? It's your choice how you want to engage with yourself. This is how I play with myself, right? This is how I play with myself. This is I have time to spend alone. I've never drawn this like that. I like dragons. You know, I feel like a dragon. Right? This is like solving the puzzle of yourself. Right? What kind of method do you like specifically? You know, do you like drawing like this? What kind of colors would you like to use? I just used what we had available. You know, we had paper available and I had a pencil available, and I just started using it because I wanted to find a way to deal with my depression. You know, I didn't make that choice like this. You know, I just, you know, if you're really depressed, you know, you'll do anything to feel a bit better. And that's what I did. I was alone. I hated everybody. And I said, I'm just gonna sit with that hate and do something with it. And so I did. And, right, I've used my hate to write 27 books, make more than 1,000 posts on Instagram, write 200 articles on Medium, more than that. No, it's not just hate, it's everything that I observe. Where's the aura? Oh, yeah. Because just sitting around doing this all day, that's not really it, is it? So I had to find other things. So, you know, it's like playing puzzle, you know, doing a puzzle with yourself. And I have used this example also already multiple times. And I'm not an expert at doing this thing. You know, I'm just repeating the patterns that I've looked up on the internet. And I'm just trying every time. Sometimes I forget. And then I try to remember again. So maybe you know how to draw, but you haven't done it in a while, and you think you can't do it anymore. Well, then get back to it. You know, it'll come back. Maybe not the way that it used to be there, but in a different kind of way. Because if you do art and it's always the same, it's gonna be terrible. So art, in a way, also needs to change, because what does it mean when your art changes? It means you change. Right? The other day I solved this in a different way than I did it previously, and I thought, wow, that's incredible. And that's how it works with art. If you do it a lot, right? Now I can do it while I'm talking, right? I couldn't have done that before. I couldn't have talked and drawn these things so casually. I couldn't have done that. That's just simple. That's just how it is. You know, first you have to learn how to do it. And if I don't know how to draw a shape, then I take it and I simply try to mimic it. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? I just try to, you know, it's like how I draw hands. You know, now it's like this, and now I can say, okay, whatever. It doesn't matter, man. You know, you just draw what you like to draw. Because this is a part of myself. You know, what use would it be to you to draw a Rubik's Cube if you don't like playing with it? I mean, if you like dogs, draw dogs. If you like the forest, draw the forest. If you don't know what you like, you know, just draw something. Just draw abstract stuff. And you can find, you know, I don't like this. But it got me to say, hey, what's this? And suddenly, you know, it's like this. All right? I don't know how to draw my hand perfectly. But who cares? I want to draw a middle finger. I'll draw a middle finger. And then I look at my hand and I say, oh, wow. Right? And now the thumb, it's a bit like this. Right? And then I look at, oh, okay, how does it look like? Here's like this. And then people think, oh, wow, you can draw hands very well. No, I cannot. You can even do like this. Right? And then, oh, wow, it's like this. Oh, wow, how does he do that? It looks so real. It almost looks like a picture. Oh yeah, you think so? Well, very hard to draw that hand. You know, it took me ages to draw a hand. No, it did not. Well, now what is this supposed to be? Uh-huh. You know, what is this? Looks like a mouth or something. You know, sometimes it's just important to do different kind of things, because otherwise it's just boring. It's always the same. And that's also the thing why when I draw several images at the same, you know, in one session, because once you're drawing, you know, you get into this. So you first have to, you know, get it out. You first have to get into the mood. And now what is this? You know, I don't have to know. Maybe it just is like this. It has an ear here, right? I don't know what this is. You know, I don't know what this is. I don't know what any of this is. Now you could think now, does this still need anything? Maybe it just looks like this. Who cares? But what I could do now, right, it's like doing like this. Sometimes I like, but the problem is because I bring it on the computer, right, I have to trace the lines. And sometimes, you know, that's just what trains me also in being patient. To do this, although I feel shit. And then I prepare myself, and then I say, okay, you know I have to put these on the computer, and then I have to trace all the lines so that I can then edit it on the computer. That's very hard work. That is very hard work, because you have to trace all the lines. So the more complicated I make this, the harder it is. So to me, this is also a way to challenge myself, right? Because I'm depressed. I'm a weak fucker at the moment. I'm like, so how do I work with that? By challenging myself. And I say, you know, I'm not just gonna sit down and draw one. No, I'm gonna draw 10 or 9. And that gives me then something to do, which means if I feel depressed again tomorrow, well, I first have to do all of these, right? So that gives me something to do. And then I have this image to work on, you know, and when I feel like it, I'll do it. And if I have a really bad day, you know, if I get home from work tomorrow, let's say you work a normal job or you get home from school tomorrow, you just pick one, you pick the first one, and then you start working on that and you put colors on it. And when you're done, you can say, oh, that was nice. Now I can do something else, and then you go for a walk. You know, and tomorrow you come home, you do this one. And then the day after you do this one. And then the day after you do this one. So you just have 1 week of dealing with the emotions that came up during the week or something, right? So these would be now maybe emotions from 2 or 3 weeks, and this could even be childhood stuff, right? You know, it's like my childhood trauma, you know, people that I see. This could be, you know, maybe a father figure, right? I don't know what this is. Maybe I'll see it, you know, it's like hidden. Felt my whole life I was like hiding myself. You know, this is what it could mean to me. There's also this cute thing, but elephants aren't just cute, you know. They tear you to shreds. You know, what I see, you know, it's also like being angry at yourself, stepping on your own tail or something, being a bit clumsy. You know, also self-directed anger. It's like he's looking at his own tail like, I'm gonna bite you, right? It can have all kinds of meanings. And what is this? It's like, fuck you. I mean, that's basically what it is, isn't it? It's just fuck you. But also humans have layers, right? We all have layers, like an onion. So I'm not very concerned. You know, if I would have tried to draw a perfect cube now, it would have never gotten to that. And I just want to leave it like this because I like it if it looks a bit weird, right? I like it. You know, I don't want my emotions to be too obvious because I know how I feel when I look at this. You know, this also feels a bit like constantly worried of being judged, right? It's like, you know, I always think I screw up, but I just say, fuck you to that, you know? Who's gonna judge me? Usually I judge myself. Do I have to do that? I mean, do I have to judge myself? It's maybe just something that I've gotten used to judge myself in such a way. Because other people used to do that. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to stand under a guillotine and worry about being crushed, right? I want to stand under it and say, well, if it crushes me, it crushes me. You know, maybe I'm lucky, right? So I don't want to worry about dying all the time. Just want to live my life. And for that you need a lot of strength of character and resolve, because there's people out there that don't want you to be happy. There are people out there that get pleasure out of it to see you suffer. Because as long as you are suffering and depressed, they feel they have it at least a bit better than you. And do you really want to feed these people? Do you want to give them that? Well, I said at one point, no. And no, I didn't want to be like this, that I spend time with people that get pleasure out of complaining. No, I wanted to spend time with people that get pleasure out of living and seeing people live. But the people I was surrounded with, you know, got pleasure out of being better than me. And that means they were constantly trying to look down on me. And maybe I was looking up to them because I was also looking down on me. And then I said, you know what? Instead of looking down on me, you know, I'm just gonna crouch down a little and see, you know, why are you down here? Why can't you just stand up there with everybody else? And then I just did that. Oh wow, it's already yellow. Yeah, I didn't really did a good job to scramble it up. Yeah, so the whole point of, you know, sometimes you have to scramble yourself up a little. And that's why I like to introduce change. That's why I like to drink different kinds of teas. You know, I like to scramble up my own cube a little, you know, to induce a bit of discomfort in my life. Right? If I'm too comfortable, I have to change something. Because comfort makes you weak. And when you're weak, you're probably going to be depressed. And when you're depressed, well, then you have your motivation to change something, right? At least that's how I see it. Because I believe in change, and I believe that people can change when they want to. If you don't want to change, then you just stay the same. All right? Let's just try one more time, because now I'm getting a little bit angry, right? When I keep talking, at one point I get a bit angry because I'm overexerting myself, or maybe I'm talking myself to a point where I just think like, fuck off, right? And then I'm angry, and I don't know what wants to come out then. No. But that's also the weird thing. At one point, you're not really, you know, you don't become your anger anymore. certainly drew already something like this. But does it matter? No, man. Because it's gonna be different. Actually, this is different. It's not a dragon. It's a little mouse. Or a rat, right? It's like, yeah? But I'm not an expert at anything. Right? I don't draw a perfect tongue or something. I don't really like perfection in that sense. Right? And why ever you see, this is art. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't matter if it fits to whatever this is. You can just, show what wants to be seen. And that's the part of art. And that means you're doing it as much for yourself, right, as you're doing it for other people. Because you can share it, for sure. But look at this, some needs a mouth. Where did that come from? So sometimes I don't know where this comes from. But if I'm only trying to draw nice things, like beautiful things, I'm like, oh, it just doesn't work always. Sometimes there's like scary stuff going on. So it's a matter of, do you do it or do you don't do it? That's all there is to it. It's either you're doing it or you're not doing it. But this for me is therapy, right? I don't need to talk to anybody, because if you go to a therapist, then this therapist has no wish to help you, because the whole idea of psychotherapy is based on, you have a therapist and you have somebody with problems. But who helps the therapist? Because usually therapists are traumatized themselves. And so they became therapists to help other people because they couldn't help themselves, so they wanted to feel better about themselves because now they could help other people. That's what a lot of spiritual people do. They actually feel really shit, and then they just run around trying to help people, but they never help themselves, which means they can't really help anyone. And that's what most people don't understand. They're so busy trying to help people that they never stop to help themselves. And so all they do is they just talk about stuff that they read in books because they're so eager to help and please, but they don't understand what they've read. And so all they do is they just repeat stuff. They just repeat what other people said, and then it gives them a feeling like they figured it out, but they didn't, because they're just using what other people told them. So you can try to do this and you just do what I do, but that's not the point. The point is to figure it out for yourself. The point is to get this out of yourself, to find your own style. And I'm going to do these now, and I don't think I'm going to talk while I'm doing this, because talking gets me to a point where I say, I just don't want to talk. It just makes me angry. Or maybe it just draws out my anger. Maybe what I actually want to do right now is maybe eat. It's really hard to say. I can do this. You can do this all the time. But at one point, but it's also, right, that is what spirituality is. You work on yourself. But what are you going to do with all the things that you bring up? Because I'm working always on myself. I dig up emotions that are hiding inside of me. And then what am I doing with these emotions? What outlet do I have? Because what I see is that most people, they just use other people as outlets. Right? They just use other people as outlets. And I just didn't want to do that anymore. Right? I wanted to be in charge of my own emotions. Right? I wanted to wear my chin like this. I'm a man, right? But I also show you I have teeth, right? So don't take me lightly, right? That's what my art is saying. Don't take me lightly, mate. Don't even take me for granted, because I'm doing you a favor sharing my art with you. I'm doing you a fucking favor to share my art with you, right? And if you piss me off, I'm gonna breathe fire at you, right? I'm gonna breathe fire. Because that's what is inside of me, right? There's like all kinds of stuff, right? There's all kinds of stuff. kinds of stuff is hiding. Hiding. Yeah? All kinds of stuff. So this is a heavy process. Because now I'm pushing through, right? I get angry, but I don't let that anger devour me, because now I have a mission, right? And what is my mission? My mission is to draw out my emotions, to look at what is underneath this pretentious me that says, I'm super happy. Right? What is underneath this? Well, apparently this is. Right? Whatever. This is just simply life. Right? Germany killed a lot of Jews. Did I do that? No. Does whole Germany think it's their fault? Yes. So they're afraid of being judged for having killed Jews? So you have to deal with that. That's just how it is. You today have to deal with this. Because your parents and your grandparents made it your problem. So in a sense, they gave you the responsibility. You know, you can call that karma or whatever. But somebody has to say, all right, I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to look at this shit that happened in my country or to my family. You know, some people are war refugees or whatever. But somebody has to break the cycle of suffering and say, you know, I'm going to learn to deal with it. All right, so what? We killed Jews and people die, right? You know, this stuff happens. You know, I wouldn't be alive if World War II never happened. That's a fact. I wouldn't be sitting here talking about this. So we have to learn to deal with trauma. We have to learn to deal with this kind of stuff. And one way is by putting it into perspective. Oh, wow, we did that. But if you talk in Germany about something about Jews or Nazis or whatever, it's like, I mean, I like to compare the healthcare system with how it used to be, because they are like this. They try to force me to live their idea of health. But I have my own idea, which looks like this. No, I don't need their doctors. That's my idea. Right? I can take care of myself. And in that sense, right, I don't need the state as the state wants me to need it, because the state wants me to need it. Why? Because the state wants to keep itself alive. And all the people that are afraid, you know, want to jump on that. But yeah, sorry, I've worked with my fear. So what do I need an insurance for? Well, I don't. Because what am I supposed to be afraid of? You know, I have faced death. So why should death scare me like somebody? You know, I cannot pretend to be afraid of these things like other people anymore, because I'm not. And I'm not afraid to be alone. I'm not afraid to be alone because I spend a lot of time alone. You know, I'm fine on my own, but I can also be with other people. And that's what sets me apart. You know, I know how to take care of my own needs, but I also learned to realize how I can still help others. Right? So you learn to take care of your own needs and you can give something back. Which means before you start sharing all that stuff, you first start caring for yourself. And that's why I can talk for hours about whatever I want to talk about, because I can create a space and I can hold it. And if I get angry, well, then it's just an imbalance that I can learn to take care of. And I can't help it that I don't like this image, right? I can't help it. You know, I just have to let go of my idea of how an image is supposed to look. You know, I can't help it that I don't know what this means. You know, maybe somebody's gonna look at it and it's gonna start crying. You know, I've had it once that somebody read my book. I think it's called All the Times I've Been Raped or something. And that person told me that, you know, she was crying a lot while she read it. And I was like, oh yeah? You know, it didn't really mean anything to me. It was like, aha, okay. It's just interesting for me that me writing such a book could make somebody cry. But to me, it was just, yeah, all right, you know, I'm not gonna cry about it. You know, I wrote a book because I was angry, and then somebody reads it and they cry. Aha, okay. You know, I don't know what people see or feel when they see the stuff that I'm doing. You know, I think it actually scares people because we live in a time of cowards. We live in a time of cowards where everybody's afraid of what they feel. Right? It's like everybody's afraid of what they feel. You know, now I'm getting into it. And partly why I'm getting angry is because now I know I have to do all of this, right? I have to do all of these things. But I mean, that's what I wanted, isn't it? I don't know what it's supposed to be. I really don't know, right? I really don't know what it's supposed to be. I really, really, really don't know. It's just like, No, it's not that it just really doesn't matter, but in a way, right? Like I say, did you do it or did you not do it? Some people, they don't do it because they think, you know, they can't or something. No, I've never drawn this. This is never anything I did look like that. So what is it? Who is to say? Whatever, what is this? Who cares? Oh wow, more teeth. You know, I really like teeth because it gives character, right? If you are a person that never shows its teeth, you're boring to me. Why? Because you don't have character. You know, if you can't defend yourself, it's just, you know, life only gets interesting when you've got people with character around you, you know, that can say no, then that are willing to say no, but that also know how to say yes. And that's the boring thing to me. Most people, they only know how to say no. They just say no to everything. And that's just super boring. Because I want to spend time with people that know how to say yes, that know how to open up, that know how to make new experiences, and that say, all right, let's just do it, right? Let's just do it and see where this gets us. You know, I don't want to spend time with some glutinous blob or something that's like, you know, it's like, you know, these kind of people make me really angry. They have no form. They're just like, I'm depressed. Yeah? I mean, that's what makes me really sick. And they're just really wobbly people. And they give off a stench. You know, it's like talking to a turd. Just, who needs that? It's like, I really meet people like this. Who come to me like, you know, grown men, they come to me like this, like, what is that? What is it? Like, can't you man up? It's because they're so soft. They've gotten so soft with all that comfort they surrounded themselves with that they don't even remember what it means to be a human, or to be like, all right, you know, let's hold a plank for 7 minutes. You know, let's do 50 push-ups. I mean, that's grown men we're talking about, right? That's really grown men. I mean, you have to think about this stuff. That's grown man. It's disgusting. And these people are governing us. These people are sitting on top and they make decisions. Right? It's like, I mean, what is this? Why do we allow them to do that? Right? Why? Do you have an answer for that? Well, I assume you don't. No? This is like the people that we allow to be in charge. You know, like big fat piles of shit that think they're the best thing. You know? Yeah, and then they've got big mouths. But all that comes out of it is just shit. You know, in the end, however you call this thing, you know, you might put a hat on top of it. But in the end, what it is, it's just shit. So you may put a hat on top of society and say, oh well, we're really great, but what we've created is real shit. I mean, this thing that we've created here is toxic. That's all there is to it, right? And then we put a hat on top of it and we dress in a suit, right? And we put a fly around our necks. It's like, oh yeah, I'm a really neat person. But in the end, it's still shit. You know, no matter how much you dress up in a fancy suit, in the end, it's still shit. So if I see a fat person standing on top governing this shit show and just sucking people dry and then talking about environmental protection and then promoting electronic cars and then telling people they have to stay at home and let the government do all the job, then I think, I mean, are you looking at the world? Do you see what they are doing? That they are ruining everything? Like, they're just exploiting. They can't get enough. Like, wow, more money, more money. Yeah, at the cost of nature. I mean, that just makes you angry. That just makes you really angry. And so, yeah, you know, I just wanted to find a way, I don't know, to deal with that, right? Right? They don't even smell how shit it smells. And so I just draw these things. Whatever. Yeah, that's enough. I think I've shown you roughly how I do this, right? I just look at what makes me angry and then I just give a form to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And now I can use my anger for having been so stupid and drawing 12 images. And I use that anger as potential raw energy. And that keeps me going, right? And if I stand there and say, fucking hell, I'm just gonna push this through. that's then my inner warrior. That's what keeps me going. And if I'm lying around, being too lazy to do anything, well then what I do? I just push myself and I say, you know what? You know, when I get too weak, I start getting angry. And I say, what are you doing, man? Stop being such a lazy shit. Just get up and start drawing something. Because if you have time to be lazy, you know, you also have time to do something about it. It's just generally how I started to change, because I realized to always give in to my weakness doesn't really get me anywhere, right? If I want to be a parent or self-employed, or I want to be active in the community, or I want to help society, or I want to help people who are suffering like me, I first have to help myself. And that means I have to prove to myself that I can do what I said that I came here to do. So I have to find out what my mission is, what motivates me. And when I have that motivation, I start working on that. Yeah, and then people will come and say, oh, why are you so strict with yourself? Because everybody else isn't. You know, people are running around and they're taking life lightly. You know, I take life very serious because I want to help life and preserve life. And I want to get people to feel alive again so that they can say, oh my God, what are we doing to the planet? Why are we destroying everything? And why are we using all these resources to create junk like, I don't know, swimming trunks that change the color when they get wet? I mean, that's the kind of shit that we're doing. So I just wanted to change that, right? You know, here's one way of doing that. Enjoy.